Friends, welcome back. Here is our next video on CA Final Paper 3 MCQs and Case-Based Scenarios booklet issued by ICAI. We'll continue with question number 76. XYZ Limited is a public limited company engaged in the in manufacturing of TMT bars. Messrs. UV and Associates are the statutory auditors of XYZ Limited for the financial year 1920. The company is listed on National Stock Exchange. CA Gov, the engagement partner, is considering the requirements with respect to the Regulation 27 and Schedule 3 LODR for corporate governance compliance of XYZ Limited. Which of the following is correct in this regard? We'll go through the options. You can straight away say that this is a public limited company, and with regard to the SEBI guidelines, it needs to give some quarterly reporting. Quarterly compliance report has to be submitted within 15 days. We'll go through the options. Option A, XYZ Limited shall submit a quarterly compliance report on corporate governance in the format as specified by its board from time to time to NSE within 15 days from the closure of quarter. The report shall be signed either by the compliance officer or the chief executive officer of XYZ Limited. Yes. Here board means SEBI, not the board of directors. Hope you are clear. Option A is our correct option. This is the point, that this is the requirement as per Schedule 2 and the Regulation 27 of SEBI LODR. We'll go through the other options also. XYZ Limited shall submit a monthly compliance report. No, it is a quarterly compliance. Corporate governance in the format specified by its board from time to time to NSE within 30 days from the close of quarter. No, it is 15 days from the close of quarter. If you have any doubt, you please go through your study material. You will identify it is 15 days. So even option C and option D is wrong. And option D says it is an annual compliance report within 30 days from the end of the year. So even option D is wrong. It is a quarterly compliance report on corporate governance, which need to be submitted to the NSE within 15 days from the close of the quarter. And the next question, question number 77, a report submitted by you after an audit of public sector unit is more likely to be finally reviewed by Committee on Public Undertakings, COPU. Option B. Even this is a straight question which was given from study material of ICAI, audit of public sector units. So even if you have not gone through, you can clearly observe that audit of public sector unit is given in your question. So you will go through straight away. You will find here you have two options: Committee on Public Undertakings and Public Sector Committee, option B and D. So if you have at least attended your classes with a minimum concentration, you can identify it is Committee on Public Undertakings. It is not a public sector committee. So option. Friends, welcome back. Here is our next video on CA Final Paper 3 MCQs and Case-Based Scenarios booklet issued by ICAI. We'll continue with question number 76. XYZ Limited is a public limited company engaged in the in manufacturing of TMT bars. Messrs. UV and Associates are the statutory auditors of XYZ Limited for the financial year 1920. The company is listed on National Stock Exchange. CA Gov, the engagement partner, is considering the requirements with respect to the Regulation 27 and Schedule 3 LODR for corporate governance compliance of XYZ Limited. Which of the following is correct in this regard? We'll go through the options. You can straight away say that this is a public limited company, and with regard to the SEBI guidelines, it needs to give some quarterly report, compliance audit and financial audit. Yes, here is our option, our answer, compliance audit. Option C is the correct option. We'll go through the next question, question number 79. Mr. P, a partner of XYZ Limited, is a statutory auditor of PQR Limited since 1st of April 2014. Mr. P also provides service of tax audit and represents before tax authorities for various litigation matters. PQR Limited now wishes to avail internal audit and bookkeeping services from Mr. P. Mr. P is required to give his views for whether he can render such services to PQR Limited in addition to existing services. See, you can observe that Mr. P is a statutory auditor and is a partner of XYZ Limited. Hope you are clear. You are required to choose an appropriate option from the following alternatives. Option A, it says Mr. P can provide additional services by taking approval from Board of Directors of PQR Limited. No, because he cannot act both as a statutory auditor and internal auditor. Because the scope of internal auditor and the scope of statutory auditor are completely different. Here, internal auditor is responsible to the management, that is the Board of Directors, because internal auditor is appointed by Board of Directors. However, statutory auditor is responsible to the shareholders. Hope you are clear. And we'll go through the option B. Mr. P can provide additional services by taking approval from shareholders of PQR Limited. No, because both the things are different. So option B is also wrong. We'll go through option C. Mr. P can provide additional services by informing ICAI and MCA. Hope you are clear. Because statutory, one cannot act both as a statutory auditor and internal auditor. Statutory auditor has to be independent. We'll go through the next question, question number 80. Gamma Limited is a renowned limited liability partnership firm specialized in rendering services relating to statutory audit, tax audit, consultancy relating to direct and indirect taxes, etc. Gamma Limited is appointed as a statutory auditor for the year ended 31st of March 2020 of Beta Limited, a listed company. So Beta Limited is a listed company. Alpha Limited chartered accountants were retiring auditors of Beta Limited. You are required to suggest Gamma Limited is required to carry out which audit procedures with retiring auditor. Alpha Limited, retiring auditor of Alpha Limited before the start of audit. What kind of processes it need to obtain? It need to obtain no objection certificate. That's it. It should, every auditor, if you are getting into a company where it is your new client and you are starting your first audit there, in such a case, you need to inquire whether there is any previous auditor. If yes, then no objection has to be taken. So option A, to obtain no objection certificate from Alpha Limited before start of audit. So option A is the correct option, but still we'll go through other options. To start the audit and obtain no objection certificate. So even before you start an audit, you should get a no objection certificate. Option B says first you start audit and then obtain no objection certificate. So this is wrong. We'll go through option C. No objection certificate is not required to be obtained only. So even option C is wrong. Option D says no objection certificate. Hope you are clear. We'll go through the next question. Question number 81. BBN and Associate Chartered Accountants or Statutory Auditors of Gold Limited for the year ended 31st of March 2020, while conducting audit for the year, the auditor have come to know that the fraud amounting to 2 crores was done by one of the employees. Under section 143(12) of the Companies Act 2013, you are required to suggest whether as a statutory auditor, BBN and Associates is required, what it is required. It is required to report the fraud to the central government and in his audit report. We'll go through the options. Option A says to report fraud to audit committee or board of directors of Gold Limited and in audit report. No, in case of a limited company, you need to directly report to the central government. But you should give the same in audit report as well. Option B says to report fraud to shareholders of Gold Limited and no further reporting is required. No, further reporting to central government is required. No. So option B is also wrong. Option C says to report fraud only in audit report. No, only if you report in audit report, who will report to central government? So option C is also wrong. We'll go through the next option, option D, to report fraud to central government and in audit report. Yes, option D is the correct option. We'll go through the next question, question number 82. OBE Limited issued a prospectus in respect of an IPO which had the auditor's report on the financial statements for the year ended 31st of March 2020. The issue was fully subscribed. Issue means here shares issue. During this year, there was an abnormal rise in the profits of the company for which there was participation of whole-time director and other top officials of the company. On discovery of this fact, the company offered to refund all monies to the subscribers of the shares and sued the auditors for the damages, alleging that the auditors failed to examine and ascertain any satisfactory explanation from steep increase in the rate of profits and related accounts. The company emphasized that the auditor should have proceeded with the suspicion and should not have followed selected verification. The auditors were able to prove that they found internal controls to be satisfactory and did not find any circumstance to arouse suspicion. The company was not able to prove that auditors were negligent in performance of their duties. Please suggest your views on this. So what will you suggest? Whether the stand of the company is correct or not, that you need to say. So the stand of the company is wrong, because in case of any control being not followed, in case of any disturbance in internal controls, then the suspicion may arise and auditor will continue further. But still we'll go through the options and we'll finalize the one without wasting time. Option A says the stand of the company was correct in this case. Considering the nature of work, auditor should have auditor should have proceeded with suspicion and should not have followed selected verification. No, since the auditor found that all the internal controls are satisfactory and there is no question of being suspecting anything, then how will the auditor will proceed with suspicion? So option A is wrong. We'll go through the option B. The approach of the auditor to arouse suspicion, and hence they performed their processes on the basis of selected verification. Yes, this is what that was given in the question. The same thing was repeated, asking us to check the correct answer. So option B is obviously the right answer, but still we'll go through the other options what has been given. Option C says, in the given case, the auditor should have involved various experts along with them to help them on their audit procedures. Prospectus is one area wherein management involves various experts, and hence the auditor should also have done that. In the given case, by not involving the experts of the auditors did not perform their job in a professional manner. If they had involved experts like forensic experts, etc., the manipulation could have been detected. Hence, auditor should be held liable. So you are not an investigator over there. You are an auditor. You will go through the financial statements and the internal controls relating to the preparation and presentation of financial statements. So you are not being appointed as an investigator over there. You are the statutory auditor who are performing your duties, and you have all the supportings which you can prove that you have performed all duties with due diligence. So option C says experts has to be involved. So it depends upon the auditor whether to involve experts or not. In case auditor feels it needs to be involved, then he will involve. Here auditor hasn't found anything suspicious. So the viewpoint of auditor is correct, and auditor has done with his audit process with due care and due diligence. And we'll go through the next option, option D. In case of such type of engagement, the focus is always on the management controls. Or misstatement or fraud. So here it is saying that should focus on the management controls, but auditor is relating to the internal controls. Whatever the controls that are relating to the preparation and presentation of financial statements, that auditor will take care. So auditor is not an investigator who should ensure each and every control relating to the company. So this management controls he should focus, or in case he found them to be effective, then auditor should have. So all these things are irrelevant. Option B is the correct option, wherein it says auditor has verified the internal controls, found satisfactory, and there is no case of suspicion. We'll go through the next question, question number 83. Should a group of persons subscribe to the shares of JNN Limited. JNN Limited had issued a prospectus for issuance of shares against which these persons had subscribed to the shares. So they repeated the point. It was later on found that some information was included in the prospectus was misleading. The persons filed a case against the company covering all the parties who are responsible for the prospectus on the ground that the information contained in the prospectus was misleading and they suffered losses by relying on that information. The company consulted this matter with its legal consultants in respect of the course of the action to be taken, and also consulted that if the outcome of the case goes against the company, then which all the parties may be held liable and what could be the other consequences. The prospectus included auditor's report on which the litigation was filed. Subsequently, it was proved that the contention of Shids and those persons were correct. It was held that the directors, promoters of the company and the experts involved would be liable to pay compensation to all these persons who have sustained losses or any damage. The auditors of the company were also asked to make good of the losses, but they refused with an argument that it is limited to directors, promoters and experts. In this context, please suggest which of the following is correct. So, it is saying that auditor is not responsible. Auditor is claiming that I am not responsible. It is limited to the promoters, directors and experts. So, we'll go through the options and we'll finalize. Option A says the argument of the auditor is valid. As per the final outcome of litigation of auditors were not held liable. However, on moral grounds, the auditor should contribute towards the losses suffered by any person. We'll go through the next. Option A says auditor argument is valid because the final outcome says that the litigation is outcome of the litigation which the court have decided is auditor is not liable and hence I am not liable. But however, on the moral grounds, I will compensate. So, I will go through the other options and will finalize. Option B says the argument of auditors is valid. See, I am not understanding. Here the question clearly stated that prospectus is including auditor's report on now he is saying I am not liable. So whenever you are issuing any particular prospectus, all the parties concerned to the prospectus are liable, and hence the argument of auditor is not valid. So option A says it is valid. Option B also says it is valid. And option C says argument is not valid. So we'll read the option C first. The argument of the auditors is not valid. The final outcome of the litigation covers the experts, and hence the auditors also gets covered to contribute to the losses suffered by the persons. So option C is the correct option. Now we'll go through the other options, option B and D. The argument of the auditors is valid. Since the final outcome of the litigation does not hold them liable, they cannot be asked to contribute to the losses suffered by them. So the argument of auditor is not valid. So option B is also wrong. We'll go through the next option, option D. The outcome of the litigation seems to be completely wrong.
The directors and experts were held liable, but along with that, the statutory auditors, internal auditors, tax auditors, company secretary, tax consultants, and the legal advisors should also be held liable. Further, the promoters cannot be held liable in such matters. How can you include all those persons who have not given their consent to the prospectus? So option D is also wrong. The correct option is option C. The argument of the auditors is not valid. The final outcome covers the expert, and hence the auditors also get covered to contribute to the losses suffered by those persons who have subscribed to the shares. Question number 84. JK Limited is a company engaged in the business of software development. The operations of the company are increasing constantly. However, the focus of the management is more on cost cutting in the coming years to improve its profitability. In respect to the financial statements of the company, which was used by various stakeholders, some deficiencies were observed in respect of the assets reported therein, due to which those stakeholders suffered damages. As a result, those stakeholders went to a civil action against the company, including all the parties who had the responsibility in respect of those financial statements. The statutory auditors of the company were also roped in. The statutory auditors went against this civil action and were able to prove that there were no professional negligence on their part. So they are able to prove that they have conducted their audit properly. Okay. It was decided that the loss was occasioned through the negligence of directors and the fault of the auditor in failing to verify the asset was considered to be only technical. Failing to verify the asset was considered to be only technical. On the basis of the above fact, what should be the correct option out of the following? So what should be the correct option? It has to be levied to the statutory auditors also. The contention of statutory auditors is wrong because they should verify each and every asset.
So therefore, penalty has to be levied to the auditors, and any damages which was incurred by those parties has to be made good by the company and the directors. We'll go through the options. Option A says a penalty should be levied on the auditors, but that should not be equivalent to the damages suffered by the stakeholders. The damages would be required to be made good by the directors of the company. Yes, this seems to be correct, but we'll still go through the other options. Option B says both the auditors and the directors should be held liable in respect of the deficiencies identified. Both of them should compensate these stakeholders in respect of the damages, and a further penalty of 10 lakhs would be imposed on them. We'll go through the next option also. Auditors and directors should be held liable in this case. Further, because of the fault of directors is bigger, they would be subject to a penalty of 10 crores or losses suffered by the stakeholders, whichever is higher. So what are these values? I am not able to identify from the study material also. So there is no such requirement because this, directors have done big mistake, auditors have done the small mistake. There is no such kind of delegation, separation between this particular point. It is auditor have done a mistake. He has not verified the asset, considering it is only technical. So, not failing to verify and whatever the damages that were suffered by the stakeholders has to be compensated by the directors. Also, the penalty should not be equal to the damages. We'll go through the other option also. Option D, since the fault of the auditor is limited to technical in nature, he cannot be held liable for any penalty or damages. However, he would not be allowed to work for this company and any other company in similar industry for a period of next 5 years as per the requirements of the Companies Act. So there is no such requirement. It is saying that it is only limited to the technical in nature. No, even if it is technical nature also, auditor should be punished with a penalty. So option A is the correct option. We'll go through the next question. Question number 85. KKR Limited is a medium-sized company engaged in the business of e-commerce. The company's operations have remained stable over the years and its profitability has been going down. The company also ventured into different markets over the last few years, but that has not helped much in terms of growth of business or increasing the profitability. The company's immediate plan is to expand its operations with focus on increasing the profitability. The company was looking for funds to achieve this objective and issued a prospectus to the public to subscribe to its shares. The financial statements of the company for the year ended 31st March 2020 included the prospectus showed a very different picture of the company, particularly in respect of their profits. It was later on found that some of the information contained in the prospectus was misstated. That is, it was untrue and misleading to attract public to subscribe to the shares of the company. Legal action was taken by the stakeholders against they would not be required to face any action considering the fact that the financial statements were duly audited by a reputed firm of chartered accountants. If at all any problem arises, it would be the responsibility of auditors. Please advise whether anyone can be held liable in this matter or not. Anyone can be liable or not. If yes, what action can be taken against them or him? If no, what should be the corrective action? So it says it is a liability on each and every person who is involved with the prospectus, and therefore we can term this as a criminal liability. We'll go through the options. Option A says the understanding of the directors is correct and the auditors should be liable under section 447 of the Companies Act. No, the understanding of directors is not correct, because director is saying only the auditor is liable, because the financial statements which was given are duly audited by a chartered accountant. So the view of directors is not correct. We'll go through the next point. Next option. Option B says the understanding of the directors is wrong. They would be held liable under section 447 of the Companies Act and not the auditors, because responsibility of prospectus lies with the management. No, responsibility of prospectus. In case if any audited financial statements are being attached to your prospectus, then auditor is also liable, because he has given his report on those financial statements. He has audited those financial statements. You cannot say only the management or the auditor is liable. Both are liable. Okay, we'll go through the next question. Next option. This may lead to criminal liability, wherein every person who authorizes the issue of such prospectus shall be liable under section 447 of Companies Act. Go through the next point, the next option. This may lead to civil liability, wherein every person who authorizes the issue of such prospectus shall be liable under section 447 of Companies Act 2013. So if you have gone through the company audit or the company law in your paper 4, then you will clearly identify that it is a criminal liability which will attach to a person from for giving a misleading information in prospectus. It is not the civil liability, it is a criminal liability. So option C is the correct option. That's all for this session. We have completed till 85. So there are more 15 questions which need to be discussed, and also there is one question number 22, which I want to rediscuss the point, because there's some kind of disturbance erased. Okay, that's fine. We'll go through this question number 22 again in the last part. That's all for today. If you have found these videos helpful, please do like, share and subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get the latest updates. Thanks for watching. Please do share with your friends and help them to revise quickly.